Hey, Durst family, I hope you guys are doing great. December the 4th, we're in Luke chapter 4 as we continue our Christmas with a Doctor devotional series. So I want to talk just from, there's a little passage in Luke chapter 4. It's kind of hidden. It's in verses 33 through 36. And so it's near the end of the chapter. There's other things I could have talked about from this chapter, but this thing sort of just resonated with my heart as I was reading through and just trying to figure out what God would have me say. And so I want to start telling you, there was a time when Nisha and I, my wife, were just before we got married. We had driven to Tennessee for a shower. A wedding shower with some of her friends. And so we were coming back, and as we were coming back across through Seneca to come back into the Greenville and Simpsonville area where we lived, my car threw a rod. And so the engine basically just said, no, I'm not going to do it anymore. And so I pulled into a parking lot in Seneca near a Walmart and a Zaxby's. And so I didn't have any, we called my father and Nisha's father. And so we had help coming, but we didn't have anything to do at that time. So we just kind of sat around. I was going to walk to the Zaxby's to get something to drink or eat. I can't remember now. It's been like 16 years ago, so it's been a little while. But I was walking through the parking lot, and I saw that there was a possum scurrying through the edge of the parking lot. Now, I've always been fascinated in like a horrific and scary way with possums. They're just like demonic looking creatures. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know if it's that they look slick, but they really got hair, those beady eyes. I'm not sure. The snout. Anyway, if you like possums, I don't know what to tell you. It's just they're icky. They just seem dirty, right? They always look like they need a bath and a facelift. But so I saw a possum, so I walked over to it. Now, I wasn't really dressed for hunting, right? If I remember correctly, I was wearing, I think, just a pair of wind pants and some flip-flops and a t-shirt. And so I wasn't really ready for an altercation with a wild animal, okay? And so but I would walk toward it, and possum with his little legs would scurry, and I would walk and keep pace with possum, and possum would stop, and he'd turn his head, and he would see me back there. And Possum and I had a little stare down. Now, this took place 2 or 3 times, and what happened, he was moving toward the dumpster behind the Zaxby's in Seneca. I assume because he's going to eat trash, because that's all I figure possums actually eat is just trash. But he looked back 2 or 3 times, and I would keep pace. Well, the last time that we had this little dance, I sped up, because obviously my stride is longer than Possum. And Possum realized that I was getting closer and gaining ground on him. And so the next time, he didn't just turn back. He whipped his whole body around, looked at me and stared me down, and gave out this just evil and wicked hiss. He hissed at me, and it stopped me in my tracks. My blood ran cold for a second, because I thought, this possum is going to kill me in the parking lot at Zaxby's in Seneca. Nobody will believe that this is how I went. I didn't believe this is how I was going to, say goodbye to this world. But possum hissed at me, and I stopped, and I grinned at him, and I said, okay, buddy, I get it. And so I backed up slowly. Possum watched me back up 6-8 feet, and then Possum turned around and scurried on toward the trash can to apparently eat dinner out of the trash or whatever he was going to do. It occurred to me as I was reading Luke chapter 4, I know why was I thinking about this demonic possum in Luke chapter 4. Well, you're about to find out. Because everybody, all of us, have a breaking point. All of us have a moment where we run out of energy and patience and we just lose it. Man, you see people on the road do this all the time. We don't have deep wells of patience and long suffering for other people a lot of times. At work, man, there's people that can get on your last nerve. They don't have to do very much. Like your well doesn't run deep of long suffering sometimes. And what's curious to me is that we associate people with that. Like they've got a short fuse. He's got a quick temper. She'll jump all over you in a second. But in Luke chapter 4, verses 33 through 36, something unique happens that I think is revelatory about the relationship of Jesus with the things that bother us, with the things that torment us. I'm going to read the text to you real quick, and I want to just make a quick point, and we'll be finished for the day. So Luke 4, 33 through 36 says this. And in the synagogue, there was a man who had the spirit of an unclean demon, and he cried out with a loud voice, "Leave us alone. What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God. Now, the way I read that was pretty in English, but if you could just join with me, all that sounds like is a possum hissing at you, okay? Leave us alone. What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? But Jesus rebuked the demon, saying, be silent and come out of him. And when the demon had thrown him down in their midst, he came out of him, having done him no harm. And they were all amazed. And they said to one another, what is this word? For with authority and power, he commands the unclean spirits, and they come out. I want you to hear something. There's this powerful idea here because, first of all, I want you to know, this happens in the synagogue. The synagogue was a church away from church. So it wasn't the temple, but because of the diaspora, because Jews were living exiled from their homeland at times, they established a synagogue system so they'd have a place to worship. And so it was in the synagogue that Jesus encountered this man who had a demon inside of him. I want to tell you something. The church building, the walls of the church, the classrooms, the baptistry, those are not places where we are immune from evil and torment and the work of Satan. In fact, sometimes you'll find some of the meanest demons inside the church masquerading as people that you thought you should have been able to trust. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. You've experienced that over the years. But church is not a safe place from demons. I'll tell you what is, though, Jesus' presence. See, there's a difference between just coming into a building and expecting the four walls that surround you to be somehow sacred. There's a difference between that and coming in seeking the presence and the face of Jesus Christ, seeking the power of God in your life. See, one is about religion and the other is about a relationship. Religion has never run a single demon off of anywhere. In fact, it's invited some in. But a relationship with Jesus does something special. What it does is this: it pesters evil. It frustrates demons. It makes them antsy and uncomfortable because the presence, look, Jesus doesn't speak to the demon speaks to Jesus. Jesus doesn't accost this man and say, hey, you got a demon inside of you, I need to do something about this. Jesus just shows up and the demon is automatically just frustrated and irritated and he can't get still. And he said, will you leave me alone? The presence of Jesus frustrates evil. The presence of Jesus frustrates all that torments you. The presence of Jesus will cause things in the spirit world to happen that would not happen at any other time or in any other way. This is the power of the presence of Jesus. Getting close to Jesus means getting into an environment and an atmosphere where evil gets uncomfortable. And what I mean by evil, sometimes it is evil that we want to commit, rebellion and sin, but sometimes it's the evil that's been trying to torment us, bother us, mess with our mind, develop mental illness, make us struggle in our bodies, make us struggle in our spirit and in our relationships. In the presence of Jesus, though, evil doesn't want to stay. Evil doesn't feel comfortable in those places where Jesus' presence is. And I want to tell you this. I want you to hear this. And during the season of Advent, we're celebrating the arrival of Jesus onto earth, the advent of Jesus, the appearance of Jesus. Jesus came to earth after 400 years of prophetic silence. Between Malachi and Matthew's gospel, we see a period of prophetic silence. A lot happened in Israel's history, but not a lot took place prophetically. But when Jesus shows up, suddenly the demons that had gotten used to tormenting people's lives, they weren't comfortable anymore because the presence of Jesus changed the game. I want you to hear me. Jesus is not passive about what torments you. Jesus is not just standing by watching you be tormented, watching your mind go off the rails, watching you struggle with anxiety, watching you struggle with depression, watching you wrestle with the relationships that you don't know how to figure out or fix. Jesus is not passive. Jesus is coming near. And sometimes that's why things start to get difficult. Do you see what happened when the demon got frustrated? It threw the man onto the ground and then it went away. One last time it said, I can't stand understand what's going on right now. And so there was a reaction. I believe sometimes in our life, it feels like it's just getting worse, but what's actually happening is the presence of Jesus is coming near to tell evil, get away from that one who I came to save. Get away from the life of that family who I died on the cross for. Get away from their mind, get away from their body, get away from their heart. The presence of Jesus changes things. There's a verse in James chapter 4, verse 7, where James is writing to the church, and he says this. He says, submit yourself to God. Resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Now, we know what it means to submit, right? We know that means to give something. If you submit a test to a teacher in class, you take your test, you fill it out, and you hand it to that teacher. You submit your test. You can submit forms online. You're giving that thing. Whatever you're submitting, you are giving to the person you're submitting it to. Submit also means to bow down, to humble yourself, because you're transferring over something into the hands or the control of someone else. It means both of those things. And I want you to hear me. This is good now. When we submit ourselves to God, we are saying, I want everything that's in my life to be in your hands. I give myself to you. I want to be filled up with your presence. So I come to you. I give you myself, whatever you want to do with me. But here's what's beautiful. And here's what James says. And here's what the man in the synagogue in Luke 4 found out. That when we are submitted to God, when we get close to God, when we are in his hands, the devils that come after us cannot continue coming after us. For in the presence of God, when we're submitted to him, the devil doesn't want to stay. He's too uncomfortable to stay around you. Evil doesn't want to be close to you, and that is where deliverance is. One of the Christmas names that we use when we talk about Jesus is Emmanuel. He is known as Emmanuel from Isaiah. Emmanuel means God with us. And can I tell you something? When God is with us, evil will not stay with us. Wickedness and demonic activity cannot stay with us. There is freedom from the torment and the difficulty when we are in the presence of the one who has come to be with us. Friends, there is freedom in the season of Advent. There is rejoicing in the season of Advent. There is liberty in the season of Advent. I challenge you, I dare you, whatever it takes, get in a prayer closet, open the scriptures, read them out loud, saturate your environment with the truth of God's word, and see if putting yourself, submitting yourself into the presence and the hands of Jesus doesn't change your situation. I'm telling you, you might not feel better in your body, but you will be singing and rejoicing in your heart because your mind has been set free by the presence of Emmanuel, God with us, Jesus Christ, the Savior of your life and my life and this world. That's day 4. Looking forward to day 5 tomorrow. I love you guys. I'm praying for you. I'm praying that all of this blesses you. Like this, comment on it. Let us know that you're enjoying these devotions. Share them with your friends if you think they might be valuable. But I'm looking forward to this entire journey. Blessings, friends.